Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today
Okay.
we have on Sonja. Sonja is from Panzerchrist. How are you?
Hi, thank you. I'm great. Been looking forward to this.
Well, this is fun. Not only have I enjoyed your new album, now you've been a member of the band for 3 years now.
Yeah,
Very
true.
busy, very
Mhm.
busy. And as I look back deeper into this, let me preface this, hold on, with you got two, this is your second full album and an EP, and that's
Yes,
within 2 years. And you also are a tattoo artist, you have a PhD in science. Like you are a
Mhm.
very, very busy person.
Yes.
So, did you invent a new way to make the days longer? Because
I wish, yeah, there's so
with
much
your
more I would love to
is
do.
that your
No.
thesis and your PhD paper
Mm.
to lengthen the day?
Well, actually, I put the science behind me, to be honest. So I'm a tattoo artist and a therapist now. So, but yeah, I prefer to focus on what I really enjoy doing.
Hmm.
So, and let that be the drive. So, whenever I'm offered a new project or a new venture, I always feel into whether it feels right or not. So it was a no-brainer when I was contacted about Panzerchrist. That was, of course, yes, that's
Well,
something I really want to do. So,
but not like there's a lot of things I love to dive into, but I'm
mhm.
not good at them. Like like you're very good at a lot of things you dive into. You know what I'm saying? So like you do have a lot of natural talents. You're one of the few people that can do that. I do think what the band, the lyrics, the tattooing is definitely the art, and it's not just art; it's a culture which goes into the human mind and social sciences and studies, which goes into science. I mean,
Mm.
no, Da Vinci was literally everything: math, science, art, because it all worked together.
Yeah, I think
So,
the secret is probably ADHD. So this ability to gather information from many
yeah.
different places and channel them into something new.
Well, gathering it and channeling it are two different things. Trust me. So let's talk about vocals. This is the first thing that always blows my mind.
Mhm.
Male or female, that strong, powerful voice. How can you maintain it? How do you discover it? Now, I've
Mhm.
talked to people,
Yeah.
this is not the first time, but it's everyone's personal journey to me is very interesting because it's just as amazing, you know? Of
Um, Actually, I started out as a guitarist and bass player, and I've played a lot of different instruments.
course you
But
do.
yeah, well, but I got arthritis in my fingers, so I couldn't play the guitar anymore. Um, and I still wanted to do music, so I was
Hmm.
looking for a different thing to do. And yeah, and I enjoy the power of the voice.
Right.
What you can really like, how you can express from a more emotional place in your body than when
Hmm.
you play an instrument. It's like it's so coming from you, from inside you. And yeah, so I started experimenting with what my voice could do. And yeah, thought, well, now I'm at a point where I would like to join a band, and I was searching for bands, and yeah, I just developed from these different opportunities I got and the different styles I was working with. That was mainly a rehearsal room band, so just playing and having fun together. And yeah, I still enjoy like experimenting with the different expressions.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think it just came really natural. Like it was something that was my place if I wanted to continue
Right.
to make music.
It's so strong. Oh, okay, hold on a second. I'm getting him out the door. Make a
Mhm.
sound. Hold on. Sorry. So unprofessional. That dog
No worries. I have
sleeps on me.
cats that come and go.
He's everywhere. I'm homesick today, so I'm doing it here so the dog's with me.
Yeah,
Um, got
no worries.
bronchitis. So, but the common, like most bands growing up and people in bands are more of a singing style. Is it common that the groups you were hanging out with, jamming with, that was more the style, like in the groups, the genre? Because that's a little bit different. You know what I mean? It's not the same as
Yeah.
singing or being in the car or singing along to it, you know?
Um, yeah, I actually don't sing along out loud very much, but I do like the tongue positions and like
Hmm.
it would feel if it had a sound on it. And I've always done that. But yeah, like for Panzerchrist was one of the bands that I would sing along to when I was a teenager or in my early 20s. So yeah.
That's amazing though. I mean, it's so strong. I mean, it's so clear and it's amazing, you know. When I listen to it, I've listened to the albums and I've gone online to some live performances. It just blows me away, you know.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the vocals on this last album. I really think like I reached a new level of like both the depth and the different kind of expressions, like the frustration and the despair. So I really played with that a lot. And I think I do that more than the actual techniques, like experimenting with how can I channel this emotion in the style of singing.
In the lyrics. So when you first came back into the band, how was the fans accepting of you? Because it feels like you're pretty much in the groove right now. Because sometimes it depends. People are,
there's of course always the ew girl, but those passed pretty fast.
Jeez, I hope we're past that point in the world. Jeez.
Yeah, well, but I mean, Bo Sommer is probably one of the most talented vocalists we have in Denmark. So those are big shoes to fill, and my voice is of course very different from his.
Yep.
But also
which is probably better though, right? I mean, you don't want to compare yourself to somebody born out that person. You know what I mean?
I don't think that's a fair comparison for either of us. So Bo is amazing at what he does, and yeah, I'm pretty proud of what I'm doing now. So,
but the fans were pretty good coming in.
Yeah, and that was what I was getting at. That the music was so different on this Last of a Kind album that it took some getting used to the whole thing. It was not just the change of vocalist. It was like the whole change of like, especially the lyrics, which was like Panzerchrist used to be about tanks and wars and that kind of thing. And Mikael Enevoldsen wanted to change it to witchery instead. So even that was a big thing for the fans. Like, what happened to the tanks? So
yeah, you know, it's interesting because I was going online, I was reading the different fans. A lot of them were very supportive, and then I was reading some of the people who were talking the new songs, like they liked it, but they're like, but it sounds like this genre of metal now. Like it's a good song, but it's more like death or it's like black. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
when you get into this level of metal, like this metal-ish, I don't know, it gets that the lines of the genres get really razor thin, and people get really intense about the layers.
Yeah,
and to me,
true.
it's good, it's heavy. I like a good story. I like good lyrics. If you're gonna tell a story about, you know, witches or imagery, if you're gonna tell a story about war, if whatever you're gonna do, just do it good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like don't half-ass it. If you're gonna be good at it, be good. And that's all. I think the timing was good. I think because between the last album before the Last of Kind, there was a space. It's a good resurgence to come back as a new fresh and reface. You know, it felt like it was perfect the way it worked out.
Yeah, and with the latest album, which is actually only the first part of the full album, so we've been very busy, but we wanted to bring in more different styles. Like the Last of a Kind was very blackened, and now we've brought in more of the old school death metal, still with a lot of black metal sound, but also like there's a doomy vibe to some of the songs, and like the speed is different. There's more variety, and also in the different kinds of expressions with the playing with the guitar solos in different directions, and so there's more broadness to this. And I actually think that what we did with these two albums is to bring the whole Panzerchrist vibe together, because Panzerchrist has been off on different ventures and different directions. So so this album and the next one, which will be out next year, feels like really getting everything that Panzerchrist is together in one. I'm really, really proud of how we've done that as a group.
It's good to be also locked into a certain sound. The more variables you have, I mean, you know. But that being said, so you recorded it's part one and part two of this album. The part one
Yeah.
is out right now. People can listen to it, stream it. The link will be underneath the show. Part one I've heard. It's great. It's strong. Did you record them part one and two already, like together? So it's like the same,
Yeah.
and you just chop it in half.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
Pretty ambitious. Pretty ambitious because it's only your second album. So like you did like an album, first album, then you do an EP, not that
Yeah.
long after the album, and then you do like a double album, pretty much, or a two-part album. Pretty ambitious.
Well, it's more a matter of inspiration. When it hits, and
It's
you
good.
have to go with
No,
it.
but it's good.
And,
I mean,
Michael Enevoldsen, who writes the majority of the music, he is what's the word in English? Like he doesn't stop for anything, and he doesn't compromise. So like when he's working, he's just like
focus,
yes,
like obsessed,
yeah.
focus. Yeah.
And that's also why I feel all the songs go together so well, and why it had to be like a double album, because they all fit together. So there is like an underlying story in the feeling of the songs and how they develop. So
So
yeah,
he does the music.
Sorry?
I'm sorry. So he does the music, and are you doing all the melody-ish vocals and lyrics, kind of like in a split, but with working with each other to make it fit type of thing?
Yeah, usually it's Mikael who does all the writing, like the basic structure and the riffs and
Right.
keyboards and sounds and
You need a conductor.
atmosphere. Yeah,
You do.
and then he sends it to the rest of us for Ove, our new drummer, who's absolutely amazing.
Yep.
And like he does the drums, and we have the two guitarists who will put their touch on it with different solos and experiments with
Right.
melodies and stuff, and I will do all the vocal stuff and the lyrics, and of course, like we will match it up. But mainly, what is so cool about this setup now is that we are all very competent in our own fields, so we don't have to interfere that much in what each other do.
Really?
And we trust each other a lot, and I think the result speaks for
Well,
itself.
So a lot of it's already formed out for you, the framework. So you just got to make it fit.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting because not every band works like that. Every band is totally different.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, well, there's usually two kinds of writing music, as far as I know. Like some people like to write it together in the rehearsal room and like talk about it and try things out. But all of us are more of like doing our own stuff and making it come together in this way. So yeah, it works really well for us.
so the concept of the album, a lot of witches and witchcraft, it's a lot of material you have to learn. Did you have to research that, or like that's a lot? Well,
the Last of a Kind was based on a history from Denmark. There was a witch trial in a small town where like everything was a mess because everyone claimed that the neighbor was a witch, and it just escalated. So the whole album was built on stories, like individual stories from that. But now we opened it up a bit more to also include more of like the spiritual side and like a bit of women's liberation and modern rituals and like the crossover from those times to now, and how we can implement more of the wild woman in modern time.
Yeah.
I think we really need that. So that's my own personal touch.
Well, I think a lot of women that were outstanding at the time were blamed as witches because they were not quiet. I mean, I'm from New England. I'm near Salem, close enough. So obviously, and actually outside of the building I work at is a cemetery of, John Adams, like all the famous, New England people, but also the first woman charged and put to death for witchcraft is buried there in the United States, which is pretty mind-blowing.
It's so scary.
It is, and I walk through the cemetery, and let me tell you, it's in the ages of people anyhow. Nobody lived past like 30 years old anyhow. So it was crazy times back then, you know what I mean? If you're like 40 years old, you were just like elderly, you know what I mean? No one lived that long. So, but the point is, any woman that spoke out was a witch.
Yes.
Pretty much,
and here the women weren't even allowed to speak at their own trials. Only men could speak. And so they had to find men who would vouch for them as good Christians or whatever. And yeah, just that is so insane to me. Like
Yeah.
the way that women could actually influence society was by ruining their like the people that they didn't like. So that's how the whole witch thing escalated so much that, you know, if you didn't like the living next door, you just say, oh, she's a witch. And
Oh,
she would, under torture, say that all her friends were witches too, and they would like, and so suddenly everyone were witches, and I guess also women were meeting out, you know, after dark when the kids were in bed or whatever, and
yeah.
talking about politics or whatever interested them. So there were these meetings that were kind
Girls,
of witchy because the men
girls
were
night out,
invited.
women's night out, right? It's, you know, it's not the same. It's that's crazy. So I mean, clearly you've got a story and a theme you're working on. Is that going to be a growing theme for the band moving forward, or is it going to be like a launch pad for other type of woven things?
We're not really planning anything more yet, but I really like the theme, and I think it suits the music very well. Like this, like the mix of despair and mystery and darkness, and like it goes really well together. And also in like it has never been more important than now to not go into witch trials again. Like you see it in the US a lot, right? It's not about real politics anymore. It's about like trying to blame the opposing party for things that are insane, but it's still like putting ideas in people's heads that if they stopped and thought for a moment, they would know that it's not really true, but it's already planted there. So I think
Welcome to
there's a lot
America.
of similarities.
Yeah.
And I mean, with the laws against abortion and all these things, like women's rights are, again, more important than it has been for many
They
years.
are back up. Everything is back up on the block again for
Yeah.
discussion. And
And
the country is on fire because of it, you know.
yes. And I mean, it's happening over here as well because
Yeah.
we are a mirror of what's going on over at yours. So
Yeah.
so we see these things like Poland also have strange abortion laws, and so um,
It does feel like it's a new power struggle.
yes. And I keep coming back to this quote. I don't know where it came from, but why are we taught to fear the witches, not the ones who burn them alive? And like, how can you not see that the people in power are the problem and not the I think you get the point.
Well, I think a lot of it's just silence, you know. Once everybody speaks up, once you put light in the dark. But the problem is a lot of people in those positions control the dark and the light on them, you know.
Yeah, very well said.
And, you know, and that's I think that is going to be an outcome with all these countries right now is how they handle it now, how they handle the misinformation, how they handle each side. And I'm not getting political on either side of this either. I'm not going there. What I'm saying is each side says stuff and there's a lot of misinformation all around the world. How is it going to be sifted through? How is the truth going to come to the top? And then when the truth is there and the facts, then people can talk about it. But when you both have the wrong story,
Yes.
it's insane and people just yelling at each other. If you get the truth of it and say, well, I believe this, then you can have a discussion.
Yeah.
Without that, there's no discussion. It's just insanity.
And it also takes that you are curious about the other person's point of view. Like if you just want to force your own point through, then there is no discussion. So
that's the other problem, you know, that will be the second thing to deal with in this country is people's strong opinions. First, we got to get past the misinformation.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No. So, but with this topic though and everything, I mean, it's interesting. So there is a thought. There's a lot of things you can continue on with more albums down the road, and there's always the danger of being stuck as being the witch band or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because
we used to be the tank band. We can be the witch band for a while now.
Yeah, witch band, that band. Which? No, I said witch, not witch. Who's on first? No, but I mean, like, because then people start labeling. You know what I mean? If you do too much of a thing. And I think one of the good things you're at now is because the past couple albums and EPs have been kind of diverse, where the fans are saying, it's this, it's this, it's this. Yeah, why don't you be everything? Because then you can do, each album can be like a different thing. So you're
Yeah.
not, I would think as an artist, you want to be able to write about anything. You want to play anything, and have your fan base stick with them. You gotta follow a line, sort of. I mean, you can't be doing like disco the next album. You're gonna lose a few fans.
Oh, I mean, Mikael is relentless and
I mean, you can.
he decides, and if he
Right,
wants to do disco, he's gonna do disco, and he
right. You
like
can do it, but I'm
hopefully
just
people
saying.
will like that too.
I'm
And
saying the fan base, you just gotta have something that can
yeah,
stick with. But
yeah,
I think, but as an artist, you want to be able to reach out a bit more, and that's I always say to the fans. I think, like you get like a band like a bigger band. Everyone will say like Metallica. They did Lulu. I do not like that at all. That's most of the world, but I support them 1,000,000% for
mm,
doing an album, and I don't take that away from them at all. I even went and listened to it, didn't like it. Other albums listened to. I would not put a band down for trying something different. And I think that's the problem is a lot of fans do not want their bands to go beyond their favorite album.
yeah. There's definitely a point to that, and
You know
I
what I'm
think
saying? Like if this
it's a
is their
good
new favorite
example
album,
of
you do
going
something to
with
part two.
part
Oh,
two.
part two's not as good as part one. You're like, I recorded it together. Someone's gonna say that.
Hmm. Well, I mean, one of my favorite bands, Vader, they also had like a lot of different faces
Yeah,
in their writing, and also when you change out band members, which will happen over decades, like there are new influences, and
mhm,
for Mikael's case, like the world has changed a lot, and so there is a different perspective on the world now than 10 years ago. So of course the music is also going to change if you write from your passion. Um,
right. It's an interesting time because I'm 53. So when I came up in the 80s, as far as thrash and that's when it was very much everyone's pretty hardcore. Like you like this, you didn't like this band, you're posers, you're this, you're that. I
yeah.
definitely think, and it was way, way bad, and then,
Mm,
punk and thrash kind of started to hold hands at one point a little bit. There's a little overlap. And then the
mm.
90s kind of a mix. I think now it's a lot better. You see a lot better. I go to shows now where I'll see a battle vest that'll have like Slayer and Poison and Exciter
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Cinderella. And I'm like, that's cool because everybody needs diversity and nobody should feel bad about liking anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
Mm,
and then we have new members, it changes it. Then it's like, I don't like that version of the band. I don't like that version of the band.
mm.
It's too much. Just people need to enjoy the music. And
Yeah.
that's why it comes back to this is it's a resurgence of the band with some great, great lyrics, some great music. Your voice is fantastic. The production and the songwriting, the guitar work is fantastic. You know, it's a solid band. Everyone sounds great. I mean, the whole band sounds good. Um, and you have a couple of videos out now already. And some live performances out. Look like they're professional actually, or semi-professional from clubs. Um, what are we looking at for promoting the album now? More videos, some touring.
Yeah, we have a tour in Denmark coming up just after New Year's.
Hmm.
Where we like Denmark is not a very big place, but we're going all the way around to the major cities. And hopefully we will be playing some festivals next summer. And we're looking to go to Germany and a bit further out in Europe. But we also all family people, so like it's not going to be 2 months of touring the whole
Right.
world. But yeah, we are very hopeful to also go to the US and the UK, and yeah, that would be
I
really.
think it's possible there are bands that do it, that come
Hmm.
over that are
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
that are you know, in your size band that picks up a couple of gigs,
Yeah.
you know, the visas over here and can break even and at the very least
Yeah.
break even. You never want to be in the red, you know.
Yeah.
But sometimes bands are like, if I just break even, I'm not saying you guys, after having a fan
Absolutely.
base for 20 years, to go
Mhm.
over and slap some hands and say hi to my fans in the US because they've been so
Yeah.
good. If I just break even and I can pay my water bill when I get home, it's good. But that's not everybody. I couldn't do that. I would
Well,
stress.
Panzerchrist is an acquired taste within an acquired taste, right? So,
Well, it is a heavier band, yes.
so I think it's really, really important to reach out to the fans because, like, this is such a niche thing that if you really like this, it's so important to make community around it. So
Yes.
yeah, it would be a dream for me to go to the States
Yeah,
and
it is low.
meet
Like I'm not
people
gonna be
there.
humming a song, a Panzerchrist song in the grocery store, and somebody's
Well,
gonna
I do
pick.
that sometimes, but yes.
I'll get escorted out. They'll be like, "Sir, could you please? You're making the kids nervous." Or someone's gonna catch that and they're gonna be humming it as they leave. Where's that from? You know, it's
Yeah.
not that catchy, but it
Mm.
is. You know, once you like it, you like it. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm. Well,
you
I
have
do
to have.
think there are some catchy choruses on the new album, actually. So,
Well, that's the type of music it is, but I'm talking about for the kind of people that are way out there. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
That to them it's just raw. That's to me. I mean, I think one of my favorite things is that a band like yours is putting out strong albums nowadays because the market's kind of weird.
Hmm.
It's a good
True.
album. It's great production. So it's produced well. It's got great artwork, and the market's kind of weird. So it is kind of a risky market, but and I think for Europe, your gigs, right? You have your area of Denmark and parts of Europe. And I think some of the big things for a band like yours is the festivals.
Yes.
That is your main audience. That is your breakthrough. That's where you collect fans,
Yeah.
i.e., sell albums and merch. That's where the merch comes in to be super important.
Yeah.
The cool artwork. But do you like artwork? You're a tattoo artist. I mean, so
Yeah.
that's one of the cool things about metal in itself
Mm.
is about cool artwork. It's a whole package. Um,
Yeah.
but then
Someone said
sure,
that bands are only t-shirt salesmen with a 45 minutes sales pitch.
yeah,
And there is some
that's a good
truth
one.
to that after all the streaming and like it's mainly collectors who buy the physical album.
It is.
Everyone else listens online. So, and we don't really see any of that money as artists. So,
No.
so if we want to make money out of it, it has to be from selling T-shirts or other kinds of merch.
Well, that's how this show started because I don't make money. I've never monetized my show as big as it gets. I just because I'm not going to make money. You guys are making money. Like I was about during COVID telling people go to the sites, buy the merch, support the bands, support the bands. You know what I mean? Because that's
Mm.
what it's about. It's really a roots thing for all types of music. And
I mean,
and
that's also where oh,
yeah, I'm sorry, not keep going. So, but
yeah.
the
No,
challenge
that's
is
also
for
where the community is, and I think that's one of the core things about metal to have this community. And I mean, back in the day, you used to be swapping tapes, right? And like having this connection all over the world and talking to people and meeting to exchange music. And like it's so important to go to the concerts and even if it's a band that you don't know or like a local show to
oh yeah,
actually go in and support the scene.
it's it's crazy because I mean I remember getting tapes. We made copies of tapes because they were imports and such you couldn't afford. So then when Napster came out, you could re-get the albums that you had before because it was confusing because you're like, yeah, but you're not doing whatever. I'm like, but then a lot of us already paid for those albums and
Hmm.
cassettes a few times over. So now
Yeah,
we're just downloading it digital.
yeah,
But then in a way it is theft, but it's like those of us bought it. It was a weird time. Not the new artists, but the older artists, you know what I'm saying? It's because you're used
yeah,
to the tape trading at the time.
yeah.
Um, but then it did get bad for everybody. It destroyed it. But the record labels and those guys were going to destroy it anyhow. It's never been a fair thing. And it's hard because you guys can't make enough albums to flip them because of the economy and the
Mm,
market for them. So that's the
yeah.
challenge. I definitely think a band like yours on the right package would do well over here. You know, I think it definitely, probably like a double or triple package, like three real cool bands like from Europe to come over.
Yeah,
Special, you know what I'm saying? Because
yeah,
that
and
way
we
you guys,
actually have quite a few very good death metal bands in the extreme end at the moment in Denmark. So it would be cool to bring Denmark over and show what we can do.
there was a package that came through last year as a European. It was like three different bands like that. That's why I'm saying that, and it did really
Mm.
well.
Yeah.
They actually made money. I can't think of who it was now. It was a heavy. It was heavy. I was like, wow, that was a surprise. It was like one of the first bigger ones that came through.
Mm.
Um, it's now with the band. Are you just totally? How does it work? Like as a band, like are you guys? Because you guys have a family. Is it touring and you guys have like some other side work that you also allows you to do like? Because like a lot of people have jobs. The jobs let them do stuff in between. touring?
Yeah. I usually say that death metal is a very expensive hobby, like owning a horse or something like that. So that's like, I don't think there are any Danish metal musicians who live from it, except from maybe Lars Ulrik, but he doesn't really count anymore. It's been over there for so long. So yeah, of course, we all have different jobs and different things that we do apart from.
I'm always impressed by the flexibility of the jobs. Like, I'm like, 'cause I've never found a job that would let me be that flexible to doing something else. Like,
No, I don't. How much do you know about the Danish sort of social structures? Is like
zero.
yeah, we have a lot more flexibility than you guys do.
Okay.
And
But I'm even talking about US bands that tell me that
Sorry?
they figured out. I'm just talking about that I know from the US bands. They're like, I take it on the road with my laptop. I'm working at my job before I go on stage with the opening acts there. I'm like, that's rock and roll. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Times have changed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean,
better for you?
even when Panzerchrist started, it would be like a label throwing a lot of money after the band to put them in the studio for 2 months and make an album. But that doesn't happen anymore. And like this, I remember back in the 90s, it was like being discovered, and
Yep.
then you would have a job from making music, but like that doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, so it has to be a hobby on the side, unfortunately. Would be lovely to be able to live from making music that you love.
That's just important. I want the fans to know you guys are still working and doing it. So I mean, for people that are critical, it's like imagine going your full-time job and then doing a creative endeavor like Panzerchrist or something, you know. It's hard. It's not a money-making thing. I got a degree in music for recording in the 90s. I'm doing IT now. Like it doesn't pan out because no one's in the studio recording, so I don't have a job because there's no bands in the studio getting discovered.
Mhm.
So there's less people, you know. There are
Yeah.
studios, and if a band can go to a studio, it's always the best. But there's so many good things that bands can do now in home studios. They can usually get
Yeah.
away with everything except for the drums. You gotta have a really good drum studio, though. That's the one
Yeah.
thing you can't
I
pull
mean,
off.
I really want to give a shout out to Madsen, the producer, and I mean he's amazing.
Yeah,
And when we recorded Last of a Kind, and like I hadn't even met any of the other guys before. We only spoke on the phone, and I came there with
really.
lyrics and like yeah, and the story is that they had another guy before me, but it didn't work out. So I had like 8 or 10 days to write all the songs and then show up in the studio that was already booked. And like
That was a risk that you were going to work out.
yeah. Oh, it was such a good match. And yeah, so coming there, and I mean I knew who Tue was, and I knew who Mikael and Frederik were from, like they were my heroes. So
Yeah.
so to come to the studio and just like say, oh, I'm a bit nervous, and just like being immediately tuned in with Tue and how he works, and like you know, when you record, then there's like you record a piece and then something has to be doubled or make an effect, and we would always be on the same page. Like he would already be setting up for the thing that I was thinking. So this kind of like,
doing.
And he has the skill for like, yeah, I can't even put it into words, just like capturing the essence somehow. And I think he does that also with stuff that he hasn't recorded himself,
Right.
but just doing the mixing. Like he has the skill for, yeah, something more, something magical.
Well,
I think a lot of honor goes to him as well for
yeah.
the sound.
The sound is good, you know, and I'm interested in going back and seeing other stuff he's done because I mean it's good. You know, I appreciate the recordings of it and the quality. It's pretty amazing. And I mean your whole story is amazing. Yourself. I mean, between your early stuff and all your degrees and what you do, you know, everything else up to becoming a singer now at this point in your life is pretty interesting change, and you know.
And hopefully I have half of my life left still. So
I can't imagine what you're gonna do. You're gonna be like a president and you're gonna fly airplanes, Amelia Earhart. I don't know what you're gonna do. I mean, I'm just trying to think of something. I don't run a kingdom. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But this has been fantastic. I'm glad you could come on. I've enjoyed this. I want to recommend the album to people. It's really good.
It's
heavy, enough people.
Yeah, and I would love to hear from people what they think about the songs and like the journey of Panzerchrist and all these, as you asked, like what does the fans say, and I think the fans are often very quiet, and I would love to hear more from like what people actually like, how the music affects people. You know, when you see a Taylor Swift concert, there's people with signs saying, "Oh, you saved my life," but we don't really do that in metal, right? Not that our music saved anyone's life, but you know what I mean. Like this interaction. Like I would love to hear more from people how the music affects them and what songs they prefer and like what really works for people.
Well, I would actually encourage that. I mean, they can do it under this show for you. They can do it on your socials and the band socials. And it's usually the same 12 people that are always making comments on everybody's pages, no matter what the metal genre is, like 12 people, I think, all in one basement.
Yeah.
You know, just beating everybody up. One of the things about my show has gotten better is I've got a lot of people are, as soon as you're more talking, longer paragraphs. And I appreciate the comments. I love the comments when they take time to do it. I read them all. I'll comment back.
Yeah.
I encourage people to do the same for you. You know, say, hey, you know, and there's a way of doing things in a constructive. If you're like, hey, this was my favorite album. I like this album, but I like this. It's different to me. I'm trying to get used to it. There's ways of saying certain things. Not everything's going to be your favorite album. You know, it's how you present things. You know, it's a process.
It's totally fair if you don't like something. Like if you can put into words, like what was it that didn't work for you? That's also a gift for the.
But it's not even an insult. If you're like, I love this album. No, I love the last time we did this one is not my favorite. Okay, it's just different. It's not an insult, but being like, this is awesome. This one sucks. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it sucks. Just want to put that out to the people, you know.
Actually, like we were talking about reviews, and there are two types of great albums: the ones that get the best reviews, and the ones that get the crappiest reviews. Like, and then you have a in the middle, which is they're okay, but nothing special. But those like where they really trigger something, and it may be a negative emotion in some way, but like it matters. And
it does, but don't you think? When you read those, you can tell that I have a hard time writing opinions on like album myself, like because I feel like I'm like it's my opinion, and my opinion changes sometimes, and it's not fair to say a band was dialing it in. You don't know, they weren't dialing it. Maybe they was just in that same mindset. It's not fair to do that. But if a band does that, if a writer does that, they nail them hard. It feels like it crushed their dream of what they thought you should be, and everybody needs to know that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
It can also be like for someone who only listens to Slipknot,
yes,
Panzerchrist will not be a nice experience.
No,
because it's like you have to get used to it over time, like the speed and the intensity and the aggression and the despair. So it will be too much if you go straight from Slipknot to Panzerchrist. So, but then you have like black metal fans with like Belphegor or Rotting Christ fans. They will probably like it straight away because it's in the same kind of genre. So there's also that, like it also depends on your background and what you like personally and what you've experienced so far. So
I will say this. I like the fact, and I've gotten more into this in the past 10 years, and going back, I can listen to the older stuff now and appreciate it, but I like the fact that this type of music now has gotten better production. Because for the longest time, it sounded like it was recorded in a garbage can because it was the least popular and it didn't have the money put at it. And now you're talking about the classics. I mean, I had on
B-side back in 89.
Funny story. I had on Venom on. Yeah, Venom. I had Jeff Mantis on, and we're talking about legendary Black Magic album. You know what I'm saying? This is Venom, and I'm talking to Jeff, who wrote the guitar riffs. I said to him, and I said, you know, I really like the riffs. I go back, and the recording is classic. I said, but I really wish the guitar, as a production guy, that your riffs were more up in the mix. He's like, oh, it's a classic. I'm like, no. It's not an insult. I like the riffs. I would have liked to hear them produce better. But once again, to him, it's a sound. You're still read it wrong. I mean, Venom fans would tell me I'm wrong. But I just like to hear the music better.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And Mikael Andersen from Emancipation, our label, he has this thing where he puts out remastered versions of the albums that were popular in the 90s. And I
like
really like that. And it's very respectful. Tour has mixed a lot of them. Like, for instance, the Room Service, the old Panzerchrist album, which, like, I think the sound on the remixed version was very, very true to the original sound, but exactly as you say,
it makes
like,
it more accessible. It's
more.
just hard. And don't get me wrong, as any Van fans, I love the first 4 albums. I listen to them still.
Yeah.
The point is, it would have been more awesome for me to hear the riffs a little bit better because I love the riffs.
Yeah.
But to me, it took a while to get into that because it wasn't the same as going from a production of this metal band of Slayer. The Venom is people like that's the same thing. It's not, and if you listen to the production, it's way different.
Yes.
So it does feel like you're almost going like from a slick thing, which is I wouldn't call Slayer slick, you're saying, but from something slick to like also like a punk band because it's the production. But the album, the songs were great, despite everything of the band members fighting and the production and everything.
Yeah, but that's
it's
one of
out
the
there.
reasons
But
why
those
we
albums,
really
the songs were good despite everything, and that's the magic moment.
Yeah.
And I love them.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind to hear the guitars up in the mix.
And that's why we really love what Tour does as well. Like I think a lot of things that comes out now is way overproduced. Like it's sort of chopped into so that everything is really clear and that has its charm. But for Panzerchrist, I would love something that's more like not muddy, but like raw in a way.
Well, it's heavy and
it's
I think the riffs are heavy and sludgy and thick in a way, but they're not. And I say thick, not slick. In a way that's you know what I'm saying. It's not like the other metal bands. So I hear it. I like it. And I'm saying, but you're right. There is a difference to people. People have to edge into it. And if you don't like the album now, go back to it. Or go listen to other bands and kind of go back and forth. It's kind of a dip your toe in the water, This is a good band to get into if you're starting to get into it. You may need to go back a little bit to come back in. Before you can go back in the deep end, you might need to go back in the shallow end with something else,
Yeah.
I don't know. But it is a niche thing. I'd love to have you back on again. Maybe we'll have you back on and we'll talk later on when you're ready for that second album and you've been touring and get some more stories for me. That would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it. Awesome.
See you in the US.
That's it.